You may know him as the Dollar Vigilante or Jeff Berwick. I've mentioned this guy numerous times. I told you he was the guy that went to Venezuela with Luke Radowski from We Are Change. They were, filming essentially the collapse of Argentina live. They got out of there in the nick of time, by the way. It's that guy, So I really like reading what this guy has to say. He's really paying attention. Alarm bells have been ringing. First of all, the title. New World Order Mouthpiece warns we are on verge of greatest debt jubilee in history. Now let's back up, because I started to say this in my last video when I stopped myself saying, well, I'll just save it for this video. And since we're on this video, let me say it. Christine Lagarde, IMF, talked about the 7, the cycles of 7, the number of 7, and 9 minus 2 is 7, and then weirdest damn thing she ever happened. And as she's walking out to the podium, before she gets started, someone says something to her. The microphone picks it up. And, yeah. They just tell me what to do, and I just do it. Okay, all right, bye. And then goes up to give her speech. They just tell you what to do. Who's they? And you just do it. Who's this they, Miss Lagarde? And she goes on to give this weird, never before done in the history of IMF or really banking, finance, anybody. Cycles of 7, this occultism to it, this plus that is 7, and just the weirdest damn thing. And I saw it then, I said it then. Guys, she's telling the club, number 7, cycles of 7, it's on. She's letting them know. You have to have ears to hear to understand. So we had the 7 begin last year, September 2015. The 4 blood moon thing, this huge occult stuff that doesn't happen for God knows how long. You know how the club is, they love that occult stuff. And the Shemitah cycle started. And historically, as Jonathan Kahn said, sometimes these big crashes and nations fall as well as economies crash happen on the Shemitah. Sometimes it's after the Shemitah has already started and ends. Well, by chance, we're ending the Shemitah right now, literally. It's the 27th of September. It ends, I think, on October 1st, technically, somewhere around there. But what else is this year because of that? It's a debt jubilee year. And as I said before, the club's going to have a jubilee. They'll have debt forgiveness by force. You tax-paying consumer, you will not be getting a letter from your credit card company, your auto loan, your mortgage. Oh, it's a debt jubilee you're taken care of. Or these companies crashed, so you're no longer responsible for it. No, you're going to owe that. But the club and their derivatives will crash. Their banking system will crash. And they'll have their jubilee themselves. At least that's my thoughts on that. So he says, alarm bells have been ringing over the explosion of corporate debt levels in emerging economies, which now exceed 25 trillion. Damaging deflationary spirals cannot be ruled out. End quote. The grim assessment comes from an article posted on telegraph.co.uk that quotes, and that's a mainstream site, that quotes a recent annual UN Conference on Trade and Development report. The article is entitled, UN Fears Third Leg of the Global Financial Crisis with Prospect of Epic Debt Defaults. Really? The writer's name is Ambrose Evans Pritchard. I'm sure you've heard of him. And he's one of Britain's most prominent journalists, known for his hard-hitting reporting. He's also the editor of the international business section of the Daily Telegraph. He says, here's how it begins. The third leg of the world's intractable depression is yet to come. If trade economists at the United Nations are right, the next traumatic episode may entail the greatest debt jubilee in history. It may also prove to be the definitive crisis of globalized capitalism, the demise of the liberal free market orthodoxies promoted for almost 40 years by the Bretton Woods institutions, the OECD, and the Davos fraternity. Alarm bells have been ringing over the explosion of corporate debt levels in emerging economies, which now exceed $25 trillion, that is. Damaging deflationary spirals cannot be ruled out, he said, in the annual report of the UN Conference on Trade and Development. So that was said at the UN Conference on Trade and Development. Notice the phrase, greatest debt jubilee in history. If you've been reading our blogs and publications, that's the Dollar Vigilante, you know that for 2 years now, I've been writing about Shemitah trends and the new Jubilee year 2016. That's no accident. I long ago discovered that the world's elite organizers like to utilize both of these celebratory timelines to trigger catastrophic economic, socio-political, and military events. Is it a game to them or a kind of sly messaging? I don't know. But we can see them doing it again in this article. Right up front, Evans Pritchard mentions a global debt jubilee. Not an economic problem, crashing of markets. He used the word debt jubilee. And no one mentions that by accident. We've written in the past about how the Bank for International Settlements, or BIS, top economist William White used the phrase, and the writer who quoted him was none other than Ambrose Evans Pritchard. White claimed the world's overall indebtedness was such that only a global forgiveness of debts would suffice to correct global finances. And here, once more, is Evans Pritchard raising the decibel level to 4 or 5 alarms. Maybe we should simply discount his reporting, but that's probably not such a good idea. He's a very important reporter whose father was an agent of British intelligence. An article like this isn't simply dashed off quickly. It has the ring of a declaration. Here's is the article's summary sentence toward the bottom. What is clear is that world will soon need a massive and coordinated spending push by governments to create demand and bring the broken global system back into equilibrium. The UN, what the hell was that thing called? UNCTAD, whatever, the UN Conference of Trade Development, is entirely right about that, he says, or the article says. What this UN thing is calling for is the exact opposite of a free market solution. We're told that this UN meeting, whatever, has stated what its execs believe to be obvious. Monetary policy is not working around the world, and a new global New Deal is necessary, one to be directed by governments in concert, probably with the UN itself. Of course, this program won't work either, but it shoves the world good ways toward global government, which is the desired goal. This article may be bylined with Pritchard's name, but it is announcing the New World Order strategy going forward. Elites managing these programs intend to buy off the developing world with trillions of dollars of capital infusions, and they intend, it would seem, to alleviate the debt of the developed world via Jubilee. This is how world government may be established, via directed bribery and money printing, not just intimidation in prison camps. Pay attention to this article and to Evans Pritchard. Writing this kind of article is his secret job. When there's something especially important to be said, his pen is usually tapped. We noticed this Mouthpiece aspect recently when he wrote what was, for all intents and purposes, a press release for a new central bank cryptocurrency called RS Coin. At the time, I wrote about Evan Pritchard's saying, the article is horribly central bank happy talk that reads like the Bank of England wrote it for him. There's no doubt this latest article is part of something bigger. They are preparing to move. Just last week, Barack Obama gave a speech at the UN where he said, quote, sometimes I'm criticized in my own country for professing a belief in international norms and multilateral institutions, but I am convinced that in the long run, giving up some freedom of action, not giving up our ability to protect ourselves or pursue our core interests, but binding ourselves to international rules over the long term, enhances our security. In other words, he believes the U.S. should give up freedom under the UN. These statements are part of a long line of similar sentiments. George Herbert Walker Bush, 1991, was even more blatant, saying, quote, and I love this quote, by the way. It's my favorite quote of all time with New World Order stuff. And this was out of his mouth. We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order. A world where the rule of law, not the rule of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders. And in 2003, David Rockefeller admitted full guilt in his role. Quote, some even believe we are part of a secret cabal working against the best interest of the United States, characterizing my family and me as internationalists and of conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political and economic structure. One world, if you will. If that's the charge, I stand guilty, and I'm proud of it. And now Pritchard, the only mainstream reporter we know of who is mentioning the Jubilee, is warning of total collapse. This is the classic elite modus operandi. Globalists love using mouthpieces like Pritchard to put the truth out in plain sight, so after they have pulled off their desired atrocities, they can point and laugh at the stupid plebs who had the truth right in front of their eyes all along. It also serves as a form of predictive programming, so when they warn us of what's to come, people are more easily accepting of it. The elite's increased transparency regarding their intentions is a clear sign to take action to conserve your wealth. Even a comprehensive reflation and Jubilee won't replenish your personal wealth. Chances are the handouts will be arbitrary and depend on your behavior and willingness to take orders. Another article that demonstrates Pritchard's association with the financial elites was published back in March 27th and was headlined, Why America is Turning to an Englishman for Answers. Pritchard goes on to brag that he was the only one who triggered a wave of disclosures against former President Bill Clinton, in addition to coordinating leaks and rumors that have thrown the financial markets into turmoil. In fact, spies were and are regularly expelled from their host countries for doing the things Ambrose talked about. Some even serve prison sentences. Nonetheless, Pritchard's bosses at the Sunday Telegraph seem blissfully ignorant of these espionage laws. This is no coincidence. A guy like this mentioning the Jubilee is a clear sign that he is simply a tool used to move markets and create chaos, just one of the many puppets that has immunity. The elite's increased transparency regarding their own intentions is a clear sign to take action to conserve your wealth. The collapse is going to be so bad that those who lost the least will actually be the best off. And I'm just going to end this by saying, again, with this whole John Teeter thing, but when someone asks him who loses the most or who has the most to lose or whatever, I don't remember how they worded it to him as the question, but his answer was simple. Those with the most to lose are worse off, get it the worst. Those who have the most to lose are worst off. Those who don't are not. However, do I want to be someone living paycheck to paycheck and say, well, I don't really have anything. I've got my normal debts that everyone has, but I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I'm not concerned. No, I'd like to live a little bit better. Matter of fact, a lot better than paycheck to paycheck, so I can buy some things to help preserve my wealth. But in either case, generally speaking, that's the right answer. Those with the most. So when I say that, think of movie stars, the big football player. Oh, he signed a $16 million a year contract to play for 3 years. But he can't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? No? Okay. Whatever. Baseball players, ballers. That's basketball. That's street talk for basketball. It's been a while. Anyways, I am Jay Snip4, and this is Realist News. Folks, we've been waiting a year now, past this last September, Shemitah and all. It's September 27th. And I will tell you, I have a little email knocking on my door, my own email, my own calendar, from the movie Money Monster that I saw months ago, and said, interesting, 9:23 and 15, or 51 I think was the seconds, but 9:23 time, a black swan, or a swan in front of the time the name of the company was IBIS, IBIS. I'm thinking Bank of International Settlements. No, IBIS, whatever. In front of it is a swan face, 9:23. And then there's another scene later, and throughout the movie, the 7 is in your face, by the way. The big wig who works at IBIS flies in on his nice private jet or whatever, and the number on the side of the jet, 777, AB or whatever. Really, triple sevens, the 7 Jubilee. Come on. So we're past 9:23 as far as dates go, 9/23/2016. But an interesting thing did happen on 9/23. Obama vetoed the whole Congress passing the law. Let's let the people sue Saudi Arabia for 9/11 stuff. And Saudi Arabia already warned back a little while back, if you pass that, we're going to dump almost $1 trillion in treasury bonds, whatever, and other U.S. assets. And if they do that, because we have a supermajority within Congress to actually wipe Obama's veto off the face of the earth, and there are rumors now that that's what's going to happen. We already have the numbers. We will veto-proof this and send it away. Matter of fact, you don't have to sign it anymore. It's already law when they do this. And again, timing's everything. So I'm watching. They could have done this years ago. Why did they choose September of 2016 Jubilee time to start even pushing that and getting it passed with this supermajority? So that Obama can pretend, I'm going to veto this, when in reality we're going to do it. And then the Saudis may dump their holdings. Oh my God, markets are crashing across the world. The Saudis did this. Yeah. Excuse me, Jason 4 here. Everybody, mainstream, experts, guys. What's $800 or $900 billion? We passed that in a TARP fund. Markets rallied on that one. We've taken our 10 trillion from 8 years ago. It's now almost 20 trillion. And the whole time, 8 years ago, markets have been rallying. So if Saudi Arabia dumped 800 billion, call me crazy, but why aren't markets rallying? Why are they crashing, right? If that happens that way. Because they need a headline to tell you why something just happened. The headline does not matter what it is. It could be fake. It could be nonsense, but they need a headline so that you can say to yourself and your peers, damn it, the Saudis did it, man. They freaking effed us, man. The Saudis did it. Excuse me, don't mean to be the turd in the punch bowl over here in your party, but my name is Jason at 4. TARP fund was 800 billion. Nothing happened. Markets rallied. Last 10 years, markets have been rallying 10 trillion. What are you talking about? Saudi Arabia caused the whole market crash. Can you fill me in on that? Oh yeah, you got a good point. They got to divert people from that point. So the point has to be Saudi Arabia or this one or that one. And then they can say, now that Saudi Arabia is crashing, they dumped this. Oil prices we got a problem. Oh my God. Right? They can just go with their plan. Remains to be seen, but as far as I'm concerned, we should be days away from something. At the same time, the club can hold this off. Like I said before, I've said this numerous times. I thought they would do, as far as market crashes go, let's wait till the elections take place. And as Barack's walking out of the White House, we can nail him, the economy. Can't blame it on Barack. He's been here 8 years. He held it together. Really, he didn't, but that's what they'll say. The new guy or girl, Hillary, whoever, stepping into office, you can't even blame them. They haven't even started the job yet. Who do you blame? There's it's a lame duck president session. There's no one there, sort of like, but the next person then deals with it. So I said this numerous times. I think they'll do that because they tried that with Bush and Obama. They stealthily raised that debt ceiling $1 trillion. He's stepping out. Obama steps in, another $1 trillion. A couple months later, another $1 trillion. Okay. 12 turns to 14, turns to 16, turns to 18, turns to now almost 20. Again, this isn't sustainable. The Federal Reserve is almost the only one buying these, lending our money to us. We sell the bonds off, which used to be to China, and the Federal Reserve in Japan, and now almost nobody's showing up to buy them, so the Federal Reserve's the one buying them. Lindsey Williams said, before that even happened, that's what's going to happen. And he said there's only a certain amount of time. They can't do it forever. They'll do it, but they won't be able to do it forever. And when it stops, that's when it's going to go down. So they've been doing this for a while. They've been buying them for a while, just like he said. So is now the time? It's Jubilee, etc. Guess we're going to find out. See you later.